In order to attract our audience to be intrigued into our film, we had to look back at the feedback that we had obtained from our audience research.
One thing that we realised was that use of gratification is very important. Many people in our target market found fondness for this film genre through personal identification, so we incorporated this convention through various ways.
One method was through choosing young actors for our work. Our market research suggested this, and so we can establish that we have probably met this aim as we used 17-year-old myself and adjusted my costume and behaviour so that I could look just like a typical British social realist character.
Another choice was through our chosen themes. Our film had a range of different themes that we included in our work. The opening sequence, our most important aspect, had connotations of many themes like violence, loneliness and potentially dangerous scenarios.
This is something that can be seen in other actual British social realism films like Green Street, where fight scenes occur, as well as Kidderhood, where a girl is seen tackling loneliness.
Cause this world swallows souls, and when the blues unfold it gets cold, solids burn holes. You're going mad, it won't matter no more, but the next day still feels sore. Rain taps on your window, always did though, but you didn't hear it when things were...
Of course we didn't film any fighting, as that would be too much for an opening sequence. Although a smash-mouth opening would create a good sense of enigma, something we wanted, it didn't exactly create the suspenseful atmosphere that we aimed to reach.
In terms of location, we aim to stay inside of Essex, as it is a very typical British social realism area. We used a library that is local, so nothing looked too fancy. Also, the park was relatively quiet and scruffy, which helped the rough and easy atmosphere that we wanted. Also, some of our feedback stated that a rough area would lead to a rough outlook, which connotes our main character's hardships. We also incorporated a voiceover, which was visibly uninvolved in the film, as we believed that as our research wanted relatable characters, incorporating someone with a typical British social realism accent and style would allow this relatably to occur.
People think I'm doing it right. Life just ain't easy. As Will Smith once said, you want something, go get it, period. So I'm making the most of it, no matter who I bring down with me.
Another thing that we had was the range of camera methods included. This involved long shots, mid shots, close-ups, panning and much more. As we wanted to keep our young audience interested, we wanted to have an opening with a lot of shots. We'd got this idea from the opening of Looking for Eric by a film before, as this was a one-man opening with suspense built as the audience didn't know where he was going or what would happen. This is exactly what we had done. Many people were quite pleased with the range of shots, as they mentioned how the camera work helped add to the mood of it all.
However, not everyone was pleased with our use of camera, as one person said that we should use a monopod. We used a monopod at various times, but other shots were recorded handheld.
Other successes included the use of a non-typical but suited location. This is the library. This was a relatively good convention, as many people were quite pleased with it.
Other things that we didn't do as well was the music, as some felt that it was too rough, thus not being very intriguing. However, we believed that the roughness of it all was exactly why we incorporated it, as it added to the entity of this confused state of mind.
Other than the shaky camera work that we could sell by using more experienced camera operators or using monopod more oftenly, we could potentially focus on making the narrative clearer to our audience.
Although we aimed to tell the story in an enigmatic view, we also intended to give off a bit of the narrative. Unfortunately, some of our feedback stated that the narrative was unclear, meaning that we didn't succeed too well. As some opposingly stated that the narrative was actually quite good and concise, we have definitely hit a split view here. We personally believe that by giving more detail, the entire plot may be given away far too soon.
However, we may be able to make more sense to others by changing the dialogue a little, so the main character can explain everything slightly more specifically to the audience.
We also got some feedback stating that our work appeared as a thriller, something slightly out of the British social realism genre. This is not what we had aimed to achieve out of our production, so clearly there is room for improvement.
We could improve this by lowering the intensity of the music and having a more obvious reason for his running. This way, the thrill can be taken down a notch and we can display it more for British social realism film. But saying that, there are some British social realist films that have a very powerful beginning. For example, London to Brighton. However, we can see how ours is a little too intensive, as there is a lot of movement and enigma.